Hey guys, Reme here. Welcome to my first mouse review. So, this video is going to be all about the Endgame Gear XM1, more specifically the Endgame Gear XM1r. Now, the version I have is not the XM1r, but I will be giving the specific details about the XM1r. Mine is the XM1v2, which is the version before the refresh, which is the XM1r. There are a few updates they did, and like I said, I will include them there. But overall, there's not a huge difference. So I've been maining this mouse for about a month or so, maybe a little bit more, which is actually pretty significant considering I own like 30 mice, and I've chosen to main this one. Because it's a good mouse. It's a really good mouse, and I personally cannot find a flaw with it. That being said, let's get into the specifics. First thing I want to talk about is shape and weight. Now, the shape of this mouse is an ambidextrous, mainly claw-centric mouse. Now, if you don't know the mouse grips, then I would recommend Googling them. There is fingertip, there's claw, and there's palm. This one is mainly made for claw, but you can fingertip grip it. And I find myself doing a hybrid of the two. Um, but the reason it's so good for claw is because of the hump back here. You can probably see from the side on my phone. There's a hump in the back, which fills your palm perfectly, and the buttons at the front dip down to a very low point, which makes it very easy to aim with. Like I said, palm gets filled back here, and low buttons, perfect for claw, good for fingertip. Now the dimensions, the width is 66 millimeters, depth is 122 millimeters, the height is 38 millimeters, and that pretty much means it's a medium to large size mouse. If you have smaller hands, what I'd recommend you do is measure your hands first. Mine are decently small, but this mouse works for me. It may not work for you. That's something you have to decide for yourself. I'd recommend doing some research on the size and what people with different hand sizes would recommend. With the shape out of the way, let's talk about the weight. This mouse is 70 grams about, which is pretty much the sweet spot for me. I know a lot of people are getting picky now about the shape or about the weight, excuse me, because you have mice like the Logitech G Pro X Superlight coming out at like 50 grams and ridiculous things like that. When really that's not necessary, in my opinion. I used to play with mice that were 80, 90 grams, which used to be the norm. We've recently, in the last couple of years, gotten to the phase of ultralight mice. And while it can be a good thing, eventually it gets to the point to where it really makes no difference in my eyes and my mind. So 70 grams is kind of the sweet spot for me. It's on the lower end of my ideal weight. I like 70 to 80 grams, which is not hard to find. Some people will freak out and throw a tantrum that it's not 50 grams or something like that, when in reality 70 grams is fine. When you're aiming with it, you really don't feel anything, and that's ideally what you want in a mouse. You want one that feels like an extension of your hand. It feels like something you don't have to focus on when you're gaming. With something like the G502 that's really heavy, you won't quite have that effect. So yeah, 70 grams, nearly perfect, no issue for me. With that being said, the shape and weight are fantastic. Let's move on to the sensor. Now, the sensor in this mouse is going to be a Pixart PAW3370. Now, it's a great sensor. It's not the best out there, but it gets the job done. You will have perfect one-to-one pixel tracking with no issues. At a high DPI, at a low DPI, no issue whatsoever. You don't have to worry about it spinning out. I have done some crazy flicks with this mouse and have had no issue. So, great sensor, no issues there. And that will result in a 1 millimeter liftoff distance. Now, if you don't know a lot about liftoff distance, if you're new to mice, the liftoff distance is exactly what it sounds like. It's the distance that the sensor tracks when you lift it off the mouse surface. So 1 millimeter, that's barely anything. If you have a high liftoff distance on a mouse, some of the mice I own have issues like that, like the Razer Viper Mini. that will result whenever you lift your mouse. If you lift your mouse a lot and you have low sensitivity, it'll kind of not really spin out, but it's going to keep moving your mouse more than you want it to, because when you lift it up and move it, it's still going to be tracking even at like a pretty high distance. And that's a little bit over dramatic the way I was holding it there. But let's say like something like that. It'll still track on the mouse pad, and that can kind of mess you up. So ideally, you want as low of a lift off distance as possible. 1 millimeter is pretty much the sweet spot. No issues there. Functions perfectly. Love the sensor. It does a great job. No complaints there. That being said, let's get on to the features of the mouse. So this mouse features the Kale GM 8.0 switches in the mouse 1 and 2. I'm not going to give you a sound test because the switches in my model are different than the ones in the XM1r. But the Kale switches are good. I have not heard any complaints about those. And with those, you're going to be operating with a force of 55 to 60 grams. That's how much pressure you have to apply for the switch to activate, which is pretty much normal. With those switches, you're going to have less than a 1 millisecond reaction time. And that's because of XM1 or in-game gear specific, I don't know what it is. I don't know what they call it. The rebounce time, debounce time, whatever it is. Basically, the switch is going to react in pretty much less than a millisecond once you activate it. And that's kind of becoming the normal as well. It's not that special anymore, but it is nice to have. Along with this mouse, you're going to be able to download a software to rebind the mouse buttons. So those would be mouse 1 to 2, which I don't understand why do you want to rebind, but everybody has a reason. And then the side buttons here, mouse 4 and 5, those can be rebound to whatever you want them to be. So it's nice to have the software if you need it. You can also do plug and play, I believe, because you have the DPI adjusting button here on the bottom. I personally don't have the software installed because I don't have any need for the rebinding, and I just changed my DPI with this. And you can change, I believe you can change the hertz as well with this button, which is cool. So the software is there if you need it, if you're that kind of person. With all that out of the way, let's get to the coding, the skates, and the mouse cable. Now the coding is something that people have complained about. For one reason only. It's kind of a fingerprint magnet, and I don't know if it's this way in the updated version. Like I said, I have the version before the refresh, and the coating is a matte coating, but it also has some specific feature. I don't know what it is, but it makes it really grippy. It's a nice, almost a blend between matte and glossy. I love it. I find it amazing. But because of it, you're going to have fingerprints showing up on the mouse. It's probably hard to see on the camera, but if you look at it in real life, you'll see fingerprints and it'll look greasy, even if your hands aren't greasy and all that stuff. So keep that in mind. If that's something that will bother you, maybe this isn't the mouse for you. I don't know how you can disqualify a mouse for something like that, but some people are very, very picky. Me personally, I play with the lights off, so it's not something I have to worry about, and it's not like I'm observing my mouse, you know? So keep in mind, it's a matte coating, but still has a great amount of grip. It's perfect, nearly perfect for me. With the coating out of the way, let's talk about the mouse skates. Now, from stock, it's going to include PTFE skates. And I believe on the updated version, they have the bigger mouse skates. It's not just these 4 here. You'll have to do some research on your own to confirm that, but that's what I believe. My version, XM1 V2, it comes with 4 different smaller skates. And smaller is an exaggeration. They're still pretty big, but they're just not like Zowie level feet. I bought this mouse off of a person on Mouse Market on Reddit. So it actually came with core pad skates, aftermarket skates, and a paracord. What I would recommend anybody doing whenever they buy a mouse in general, the stock feet are never going to be as good as you can get with the aftermarket mouse skates, such as core pad and tiger arcs and all that stuff. So what I would recommend doing is when you buy the mouse, if you do decide to buy it, I would buy aftermarket feet wherever you can find them. Lethal Gaming Gear is a good site. I believe they do. They sell mouse feet there. I would recommend buying aftermarket mouse feet. And last but not least, let's talk about the cable. Now, they say it comes with the. I don't know what they even consider it. They basically implemented their own um, rendition of a paracord, but I don't think it's as good. It's braided. It can be kind of stiff at sometimes. So what I would recommend is buying aftermarket paracord as well. They're getting very, very good. I know some sellers that sell 3D printed stress reliefs, which make the installation very, very easy. Overall, it's still not a hard installation. So I would recommend getting a paracord and aftermarket feet, but the ones that come with the mouse are good enough. You have to be a very, very picky person for those to bother you. They get the job done and pretty much have very, very little flaw to them. So, all that being said, it's a great mouse. I highly recommend it. As I said, I've been using it for nearly a month now, maybe more, and it has served me well. My aim has been pretty good. Definitely not being held back by the mouse. Pretty much my genetics. But anyways, it's a great mouse. Highly recommend it. If you do consider buying it, as I said, go and do your own research. See if the shape and the size would be something that would fit you. And good luck. So this is Remy from the future here. I forgot to mention the price of the mouse in this review, but it's a very fair price. You can find it for $60 on most sites, and then it goes up to 70 or 80. It just depends on the buying options. I know it goes out of stock in some situations, so you have to find it for yourself, but it should be $60 to $80, which is a fair price for what you're getting. So back to the video. So if you guys want to see any other mouse review, specifically earlier than I would do it normally, then comment below. I will be glad to take requests, and if I do have the mouse, I'll do it. If not, I obviously won't. I'm not gonna spend money to review a mouse. If the companies end up wanting to send them to me for review, then I could do that, but I doubt that's gonna happen since I am a small YouTuber. That being said, I'll get around to reviewing other mice soon. And yeah, if you liked the video, if you found it informative, please leave a like. That's going to help more people find my channel, and it's going to be able to help them find the mice that they want, the mouse that works for them. All that out of the way, thank you for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.